Hi everyone, my name is Catherine. Welcome to Cathy Fashion online tutorial. Let's draft this beautiful Ankara and dry lace combo bubu kaftan together. It has two side pockets, as you can see. It also has a zipper at the back. Now let's get started. I I'll be using two I'll be using 6 yards of Ankara fabrics. As you can see, 6 yards of Ankara fabrics and 1 yard of dry lace material. As you can see, 1 yard of dry lace material. The length of my gown is 55, but I will be adding 5 inches extra, making it 60. So I'll be cutting 120 inches. Then that 120 inches, I'll divide it into two equal halves, making 60 inches each. That is what I have here. One for the front panel, while one is for the back panel. That is what I have here. Then for my dry lace, I also have the same measurement, which is the length is 60 inches. If you couldn't get 60 inches for the length, you can join it at the middle. So now let's get started. This is for the back. I mark the first line at the front, which is my starting point, which also indicates my shoulder line. Then the next thing I'm doing here is I'm marking the length of my gown, which is 55 inches. Then the next thing I did was I measured my zipper allowance. That's what I'm doing there. Zipper allowance, which is 1 inch. Then I rule a straight line, just as you can see. Now I'm placing my front panel on the back panel, leaving the 1 inch zipper allowance behind, just as you can see. I'm trying to place it and adjust it very well, leaving the 1 inch zipper allowance. So I'm placing the front panel on the back panel to enable me to cut the two panel together. So I'm trying to adjust it and pin it down. That's what I'm trying to do over there. I adjust and pin it down, as you can see, so that while marking all the measurements, it will not shift and give me a wrong measurement. It won't shift and give me a wrong measurement. So I've already marked the starting point of my gown, which is my shoulder line. That's what I'm trying to extend and mark very well for you to be able to see it very well. That is the starting point. Then from that point to my bust point, I marked and rule a straight line. I marked and rule a straight line. So the next point is from my shoulder to my waist line. I marked. Then to my hip line, I also mark and rule a straight line, just as you can see me doing in the video. So now, from my shoulder line to my hem line, which is the full length of my gown, 55, I marked, as you can see. Then I'm rolling a straight line. That line indicates my hem line. It indicates the end of my gown, where my gown will end. It's also referred to as hem line. So the next thing I'm trying to do there is I'm marking my shoulder line divided by 2. Whatever you have as a shoulder line, you divide it by 2 and mark. You also divide it, whatever you have on your shoulder line, you divide it by 2 and mark. For example, if you have 14 as your shoulder, you divide 14 by 2 and you have 7 and mark. Whatever you have as your shoulder line, you divide into 2 and mark. So now, this is my bust line. Whatever you have as your bust circumference, you divide into 2 and add 2 inches allowance and mark. Then to my waistline, whatever you have as your waistline, waist measurement, divide into 2, add 2 inches ease and also mark with 1 inch sewing allowance, making 3 inches. Then on your hip line, whatever you have as your hip measurement, divide into 2 plus 2 inches ease, then plus 1 inch sewing allowance, making extra 3 inches to your hip measurement and mark. Then down to your hem line, whatever you have as your hip measurement divided by 4, you add extra minimum of 6 inches and maximum of 8 inches, depending on how wide and how free you want your gown to be. And this can also depend on your available fabrics, but it shouldn't be smaller than 6 inches. It shouldn't be smaller than 6 inches. So now I'm trying to connect all the marked area together. So I already connect from my waist, from my bust point to my waist point. Now I'm trying to connect from my waistline to my hip line. From your waistline to my hip line, you can decide to use your hip cuff to connect it if you want a curvy effect at that point, or you can decide to use a long straight ruler to connect. So for this tutorial, I use my long straight ruler because I don't need a curvy effect at that point. I use my long straight ruler to connect down from my waistline down to my hem line. As you can see, that is what I'm trying to connect at that point. Just a straight line from my waistline downward straight to my hem line. That is what I have done in that point. So I will be using my cuff ruler or armhole ruler to connect from that point to my shoulder point. To connect from that point to my shoulder point. What I'm trying to do in that place is I'm trying to mark whatever I have on my shoulder, also on my bust line, just like that. That is what I just did to help me bring out my armhole curve perfectly. That is what I did at that point. Then you mark the midpoint of whatever you have at that point from your bust line to your shoulder line. You mark the midpoint. This is to enable me to bring out my front shoulder armhole perfectly. So when you mark your midpoint, you come in by 1/4 inch. Then you mark a new armhole, which will indicate your front armhole. Then the normal armhole you marked before will indicate your back armhole. I hope you understand this. Your front armhole should be a little bit curvy than your back armhole. This is to enable a free movement of your arm after making your dress. So now I'm marking my neckline. For the front neckline, the width is 3 inches, both for the front and the back. Then for the back, the depth is 1 inch for the back. The depth is 1 inch, while the depth for the front is 3 inches. As you can see, that is what I'm trying to mark and connect. So now, the first one I already mark out is for the back. Then this is the front neck line. As you can see, this is the front neckline I'm trying to mark out now. So now I'll go ahead and mark the cuff, which is also between 3 to 4 inches, depending on how deep you want it to be. That is the cuff at the center front. So you can make it between 3 to 4 inches, but for this illustration I make my 3 inches. Then I connect. Now I'm trying to mark the shoulder slant, which is very important because the woman shoulder is not straight. The shoulder slant, from that shoulder point you come down by 1 inch. Then you connect exactly what I did at that point. Then you connect just like that. So by the time you are cutting, you cut it slant so that it will relax very well on the shoulder. So the next thing I'm doing there is I'm adding ½ inch sewing allowance. This is very important, so that by the time I finish sewing, it won't affect my overall measurement, my overall length of my gown. So I already added ½ inch as my sewing allowance. ½ inch as my sewing allowance. So at this point, I'm trying to mark where my pocket will be. So to mark your pocket, from your waist point, you come down by 1 inch. Then the pocket opening is going to be 7 inches. So from the 1 inch point that you mark below your waist point, you just come down by 7 inches and mark. That is what I have done in that point. That is exactly what I did at that point. So now I'm trying to mark my hem allowance. This is to enable me to hem my hem points of the gown. That is my hem allowance, which is, it can be between 2 inches, 1/2 inches to 2 inches, depending on your preferences and your available fabrics. So I'm trimming out the excesses at the down. That's what I'm trying to do over there. I trimmed out the excesses. So now, before cutting, you simply fold it inward. You fold your hem allowance inward. This is to enable it to align very well, to enable it to align perfectly while sewing. Before cutting out your fabrics, turn in your hem allowance as seen in the video. This is very important, so that by the time you will be sewing, you won't be struggling with the folding. So the next thing I want to do in this place is I want to eradicate zipper bulge. I will eradicate zipper bulge. So what I did is, on the zipper allowance for the back panel, I come in by ½ inch on the waist point. ½ inch on the waist point. That's what I'm trying to do over there. Come in by ½ inch on the waist point and mark. ½ inch on the waist point and mark. Come in by ½ inch on the waist point. Then I will connect. That is what I'm trying to do. I connect to the hip line area, just like that. I'll connect it just like that. Then I also connect it upward to the bust line area, just like this, upward. Then that point that I marked out, I will be trimming it off. This is to eradicate zipper bulge at the back of my gown so that it won't fold. That is what is called zipper bulge. You have to do this because it is very, very important. So the half inch that I took out from the back, I will want to add it back at the side of the fabrics, which is exactly what I'm doing. It's going to be only for the back because the front has no zipper. So I remove half from the zipper allowance, then I added it to the side of the back panel. Please, you have to understand that particular explanation. So now I'm cutting. It is time to cut it out. I'm cutting it out. The first thing I'm doing here is I'm trimming off the zipper bulge area, the half inch that I took. That was the first thing I did. I'm trimming it off at that point. Then now I'm opening up the zipper allowance at the back till to the hem area. As you can see, I'm opening it up to enable me insert my zip till the hem area. So that is exactly what I did over there. Now I'll go ahead and continue cutting from the shoulder point. I cut exactly on my sewing allowance on the shoulder line, then through my back armhole, as you can see, down to my bust area. Then I'm cutting on the back panel line, then straight downward, as you can see, to my hem area, So this is how it look like after cutting. So now I will cut on my back neckline first, which is 1 inch depth. That way, my back neckline. Cut on my back neckline. So now I will remove the front neckline. I will remove the front panel from the back panel. The front panel is ready. The back panel is ready. So I will only work on the front panel now. That back panel is ready. So it's 2 pieces. That is how it should look like. It is ready. So that is the back panel. Now to the front panel. So I will be tracing out my front neck line. I'll be tracing out my front neck line. So this tutorial is beginners friendly. When you calm down and watch it very well, you will understand every details of it. Then I'll cut out the front neckline. Then the front armhole should be a little bit curvier. I'm trimming the 1/4 inch that I mark on the midline out. Then the zipper bud allowance that I added to the back, I will also trim it out from the front. That's what I'm doing, because the front has no zip. The front does not need that allowance. It has no zip. So I'm notching the pocket points that I marked earlier for me to be able to know the particular point while freezing my pocket. It will be a guide, a kind of guide for me, to guide me while sewing the pocket. So now I'll go ahead and cut the sleeve. Go ahead and cut the sleeve. So the length of my sleeve is 10 inches plus 3 inches for the dry lace material. The dry lace edge is 3 inches. So altogether making 13 inches. So that is the edge of the dry lace. I'll be joining to the sleeve. So the dry lace edge is on fold twice, making it 4. Then the Ankara fabric itself is also on fold twice. That will give me the 2 sleeve at once. If you don't know how to draft your perfect sleeve, you can watch my previous video where I make a detailed illustration on how to draft a perfect dress basic sleeve perfectly. So now I'm trying to mark my hem allowance. So now I marked the first straight line is my hemming line. That is where my sleeve will end, which is the 10 inches. That's what I've done in that place. So now I will go ahead and mark the length of my sleeve. I will go ahead and mark the length of my sleeve, which is on the fabric, which is 10 inches. So that is what I'm trying to do over there. I'll mark my 10 inches that way. I'll mark it all through. I'll mark it all through. Then I'll rule a long straight line. A long straight line to indicate where my sleeve begins and where the sleeve ends. So the next thing is my sleeve cap. For an average length lady, you can use between 4.5 inches to 5 inches as your sleeve cap. Then for a shorter ladies, you can use 4 inches for your sleeve cap. But for the purpose of this illustration, I will be using 4.5 inches as my sleeve cap. So I draw a straight line on my sleeve cap. Then the next thing I did here was, whatever I have as my arm sky, I divide it into 2. Then from my sleeve point straight to the sleeve cap line, I will mark whatever I have as my arm sky divided by 2. That was what I did in that place. So I will be using my curve ruler to curve out the shape of my sleeve as seen in the video. To have a well detailed illustration of this, check my previous videos on how to draft a basic sleeve perfectly. And very soon, my next video is going to be on how to draft a puff sleeve perfectly. So stay tuned on my channel, because from now on I will be dropping videos every week. You'll be seeing my videos every week, where you'll be learning a lot of sewing tutorial and sewing tips. You can also follow me on Facebook on Kati Fashion Academy to learn a lot of pictorial illustrations. So now I'm placing the dry lace combo on it and mark my sleeve round, my sleeve round divided by 2. So whatever I have, I'll mark over there, because the dry lace is going to be at the edge of the sleeve. For example, assuming my sleeve and round sleeve is 12 inches. So 12 inches divided by 2 gives me 6. Then I will be adding 2 inches ease, making it 8 inches plus 1 inch sewing allowance, because the sleeve had to be free, making it 9. So at that point I mark 9 inches, and now I go ahead and cut. As you can see, I went ahead and cut out my sleeve, so you can see the outcome. So then I notch the upper points to guide me while freezing the sleeve. Now I'm cross-checking my sleeve edge, which is my arm sky, to ensure that the measurement is correct. So the next thing I'll be doing is I'll be cutting the dry lace design. The dry lace design in the front of the gown. The dry lace design. So what I'm trying to do is I'm pasting the front panel on the dry lace. I'm trying to arrange it to cut out the neck line first. To cut out the neck line first. So that is what I'm trying to do, to trace out the neckline first. This dry lace at the front is going to be, is also going to serve as my front facing. So therefore the front needs no facing anymore. So it's only the back that will be cutting facing for, because this style has no lining. It has no lining. So I've already traced out the front neckline and the armhole area. So that is what I just did over there. I've already traced out the front neckline and the armhole area. So now I'll be shaping out my desired front design. I'll be tracing out my desired front design. So from the shoulder, I mark 4.5 inch at that point. From the shoulder, I come down by 4.5 inch at that point. So the next thing is, from the center front, I'm marking 4 inches all through. From the center front, I'm marking 4 inches all through. You can decide to make yours 4.5 inches or 3.5 inches. But with these 4 inches, by the time I finish sewing, I'll be having 3 inches. It means I will use 1/4 inch to fold each side of it, placing on my front panel, if you can understand what I'm trying to explain. So now I'm connecting it all through with my cuff roller from the armhole side. connect it I connected it with my curve ruler. So now I'm trying to cut the front design out. So that is what I'm doing over there. You can as well use plain material for this in case dry lace is not available in your area. You can use plain material, matching plain material, like Mikado material or bridal satin or Dolphins, anyone you can use to improvise this dry lace material. It will also come out nice. It will also come out nice. So this is the outcome. This is what I got after cutting it out. So this is the design I will be placing on the front panel. So that is the design that will be on the front panel. As you can see, I'll be placing it on the front panel. That is the design that will be on the front panel. So I'm trying to place it on the front panel for you to see. Then I will use this. I will also use this as a facing. I will use it to turn the front neckline as a facing. So for the stand collar, after joining the shoulder, you measure whatever you have from the center front to the center back. So whatever you have, you just cut a long straight scrap, which is 1 inch, 1.5 or 2 inches, but your collar should be 1 inch. So now, what I'm trying to do, this is the back panel. I'm trying to paste. I've already cut out my pocket part. I've already cut out my pocket part. So once I cut out my pocket part, I place it on the pocket side where I already mark and notch for me to know where to the part to sew through. That is what I'm trying to do at this point. So that is what I'm trying to do at this point. Then I marked 1/2 inch all through the side pocket for me to guide me while